Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Andrew Stroback, aka Stroback Fitness, and I'm coming at you with a little video. So this is actually a video that I've been wanting to make for a while now. I just really never got around to doing it. So basically, I'm going to be going through how I was able to increase my squat by over 100 pounds in just under 4 months during my previous bulking phase. So I believe I got 8 tips for you guys that I really used a lot to help me out. I'm going to go through in depth every single one of them, give you guys a few demonstrations, just kind of talk about everything. And yeah, so I'm also going to go into a little bit of information on my whole squat situation before I really kind of figured out all these tips and started increasing this for myself. Kind of what I was doing, like what I was doing wrong, what I fixed, what I changed, and whatnot. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, so basically, my whole squat situation last year, before I figured all this out, my whole life, legs were really never my thing. Squat was never really my thing. I just never really felt comfortable with it. I never liked it that much, to be honest. I was always an upper body kind of guy, like most people. And my squat, I believe, was no more than 350 for like all throughout my later high school years, early college, all that. I just never really cared all that much about squat. I was more of a bench press and deadlift kind of guy. So I'll actually put up a video, you guys, when I maxed out on squat, which this was actually back in November. It was 365 high bar, horrible depth, and I'll just have to let you guys see it for yourself. So yeah, as you can see, that was pretty horrendous. I barely even got 90 degrees. It just looks so uncomfortable and everything. And honestly, looking back at that video after it happened at the time, I was like, yeah, something's got to change here. So I kind of started experimenting on a few other little things, little techniques, forms, and all that. And next thing you know, I hit 365 for 5 a couple weeks later. And I was like, all right, now we're getting somewhere. So I kept building off that, building, and next thing you know, my squat is going up consistently, like a lot. So I'm going to give you guys pretty much all the information, all the tips, everything that I use for myself, everything that really helped me out immensely, and hopefully it'll do the same for you guys. So now real quick, I'm just going to show you guys a little clip from when I hit 455 on low bar squat back in February. So yeah, honestly, the depth in it really isn't that good. When you're in the heat of the moment and you're actually in the squat, you feel like you're a lot deeper than you really are, and that was the case for me. But aside from that, just the fact that my strength went up by a whole 90 pounds in that time frame, which was what, probably, I think 3 months. So that was 90 pounds in 3 months. And then less than a month later, I was squatting 365 for 12 reps, which is equivalent to, I believe, a 1 rep max of about 500. So I was never able to really actually hit 500 because all the gyms closed and we went into quarantine. And I only have 360 pounds of weight in my basement, so I had to make do with what I could. But just the fact that I went from squatting 365 for 1 rep in November to doing 360 for 12 reps right before I went on my cut, which was early April. So I believe it was March when I hit that 360 for 12 or something like that. So just right there, that goes to show you how effective these tips can be and how much strength you really can build in such a short amount of time. Okay, so a few of the basic tips that pretty much everybody knows. These aren't part of my actual 8 tips. These are just small little things. One is finding whether or not you like low bar or high bar better, what's more comfortable for you. Personally, when I switched from high bar to low bar, it felt amazing. I just felt like my center of gravity was so much better. I was immediately able to do about 20 pounds more in weight, and overall just felt so much more comfortable. And also, definitely invest in a really strong belt. you got to stay tight. You got to keep your core tight when you're doing it. So a strong belt is going to help you right then and there. Also, I invested in knee sleeves too, compression knee sleeves, just to kind of help my joints and my knees while I was actually doing like really heavy squat. So those are just 3 small tips right off the bat. Most of you probably already know about that, but I just want to reiterate it real quick because it could make a big difference for some of you. All right, so starting off with tip number 1 is single leg movements versus double leg or movements using both legs. So for movements using 2 legs, you know, your usuals, you have your back squat, your front squat, you know, your leg press, just anything that's really going to have both feet planted on the ground. And those are the best compound movements for when you're trying to build your strength. But what often happens is people neglect the single leg movements. So Bulgarian split squat, everybody's least favorite leg workout. Also single leg squats, single leg lunges, just all kinds of stuff like that. I would do pretty much every single one of my workouts. Right after I would get done with my main compound lift, I would immediately go right into a single leg workout. So pretty much the backbone of my squat strength increasing was from these single leg workouts. So I would immediately go and hit some Bulgarian split squats, or I would go and do single leg press, stuff like that. And just being able to isolate each leg, you can really figure out, you know, which leg needs more work. You can really develop that single strength because you don't have to focus on both legs. You're only focusing on one at a time. And there's just something about that just allows you to develop that strength that much more. And honestly, once I started really focusing on trying to do a single leg movement every single time I hit legs, I started noticing my squat numbers going up like ridiculously. So tip number 1, definitely incorporate a single leg movement into every single workout. So right here we got the Bulgarian split squat. This is honestly probably my favorite single leg movement. I'm just demonstrating without weights, but I usually do this, I'd say about every other leg workout, and it's increased my squat by so much, it's ridiculous. And now right here with the chair, we got a few pistol squats onto the chair. Me personally, I don't have the balance yet to do it without the chair, but this is also right here one of my absolute favorites. So moving on to tip number 2, we have slow and controlled movements versus explosive movements. So your explosive movements are going to be things that are more quicker, using your fast twitch muscles, obviously, and things that are slower and more controlled are going to take a lot longer time. They're most times going to be a little bit more difficult because you're going to have more time under tension. So this was another thing that I would focus on a lot during my workouts. So I would try to incorporate one of each, at the very least one of each, into every one of my leg workouts. So 2 of my favorite ways to do this, I would do tempo squats, which I'll give you guys a little demonstration video of that in a second. But basically with your normal squat, what you want to do is you want to go the negative part of the rep, you want to be very, very slow and controlled. And then you want to try to explode up. So that right there is a movement that actually incorporates both. And like everybody knows, when you're building muscle and you're building strength and all that, you don't want your muscles to get used to the kind of tension you're putting them through. So if you're just always constantly doing explosiveness after explosive workouts and all that, eventually you're not going to get the same benefits anymore because your body's just going to be too used to it. So by doing these 2 different, speeded or 2 different speeds of exercises, it's going to keep your muscle groups guessing. So you can literally do this with every single exercise. You can take a normal squat, you can do jump squats, or you can do tempo squats. Right there, that's going to keep your muscles guessing at all times. And that's what's best when it comes to building strength and muscle. So I'll give you guys a little demonstration of some of my favorite movements for both slow and controlled and also explosive. So right here I'm doing a little demonstration of a slow and controlled squat, tempo squat that I would normally do. Just really focusing a lot on a slow, negative movement, and also really, really controlled on the way back up. So now right here, this is more of an explosive box squat variation. So as you can see, I kind of control it slightly on the way down, and then going back up, I pretty much just explode as fast as I can. So obviously I'm demonstrating without weight, but I would do a lot of weight for this. So moving on to the next, we have body weight squats. So I would do body weight squats very, very frequently, pretty much during every single workout. And honestly, it doesn't even have to be part of your working sets. You can do it just at the beginning of a workout, at the end as a cool down. But basically, doing these body weight squats, you have to be focusing on getting perfect form and being as comfortable as possible with it. So what that did, it's not necessarily to help build strength, build muscle, all that. What you're doing is you're getting your body used to that comfortable and that good form. And what that does is that builds that mind, or that muscle memory. So when you actually get under the heavy weight and you're doing your squat, you don't even have to think about it. You automatically are comfortable. You're automatically gonna have better form, and just constantly just doing those repetitions every single time, your body's gonna be very used to it, and you're gonna notice your squat is gonna feel better, and it's also gonna improve. So body weight squats, they often get underlooked, but they're so important to just get that perfect form down. All right, so tip number 4, we have staying tight during all your reps. So if you don't really understand what that means, basically you want your body to, you want to have a nice stable base. You want your full body to be real tight and real strong the whole time, because the second you let something loose, that's when injuries start to happen. That's why you want to wear a belt, keeps your core tight. You wear compression sleeves on your knees, keeps your knees nice and tight, and that prevents injury. That actually allows you to do more weight. And also staying tight is just overall just 100% mandatory whenever it comes to doing heavy weight. Like you always hear people, you see a lot of professional powerlifters, whenever they're doing very, very heavy weight, they just look just all like ridiculously tight while they're doing it. And that's because they're doing it the right way. That's preventing injury, allowing you to keep your body safe, allowing you to do more weight. So one specific part that needs to stay tight is your core. Like you hear people say all the time, your core is probably the most important muscle, because it is the backbone of every single movement that you do. Everything works your core. You need core for everything. So if you're puffing your stomach out and you try to do a squat, it's not going to feel right, and you're probably gonna, get a hernia or something. I don't know. But if you're flexing your abs and you're staying nice and tight, you're wearing a really tight belt, you can see how much of a difference it makes, how much better you feel, and also how much more weight you feel like you can do. So staying tight is always a necessity. Before every single rep, just think about it. Think, all right, I gotta flex up. I gotta get tight for this. This is gonna help me out with my rep, my strength, and preventing injury. So coming in at tip number 5, this is actually probably one of, if not my favorite tips. And this one is finding your comfortable form despite what others tell you should be doing. So everybody has their own way of doing something. Everybody has their own comfortable form that works for them. And if it works for them, they're gonna try to recommend that you do it too. And if they see you not doing it, they're gonna try to fix you and have you doing it that way. So a lot of, you want to listen to what people, if somebody knows more than you, definitely listen and definitely take in the advice that they're giving you. But don't do something if you don't feel like it's right. You want to trust your gut when it comes to doing heavy lifts and and choosing the form that works for you, the type of form that is correct that works for you. So, for example, like some people like to point their toes forwards while they're squatting. Some people like to point their toes really far out. Honestly, either way, it's all personal preference. For me, I personally like to point my toes outwards. I've heard people say, oh, you shouldn't do that. You should point them a little further in. It's going to engage these muscle groups more than this, and it's going to be better for you, blah, blah, blah. But honestly, in the end, it's really your personal preference. As long as your form is okay, it's really all up to you to kind of make a little tweaks here and there to make it more comfortable for you. Because that's really what it comes down to, is if you're not feeling comfortable while you're doing these lifts and these heavy lifts, and why are you even doing it? It all comes down to that. So that goes into play with doing the body weight squats every time you work out. Figure out what's comfortable for you. Just do little tweaks here and there. Make yourself want to do it, basically. That's what I always told myself. I would be so excited to go to the gym whenever I was squatting because it just felt comfortable and I just loved doing it. So yeah, get comfortable. So coming in at number 6, this is a huge one. Not wearing sneakers. So this was something I didn't figure out until probably this past January, several months after my squat actually started going up. So I switched over from wearing my sneakers to wearing flat bottom shoes. So I started deadlifting and squatting and all that in Converse, and it felt so much better. So basically, sneakers, they all have that natural curvature to like the bottom sole of it. And whenever you're doing your heavy lifts and all that, it's if you take your shoes off and you put your feet flat on the floor, that is exactly there's no curvature in your feet whatsoever. Your feet are just flat. All part of it is on the floor. So when you wear flat bottom shoes, it's the same principle as that. If you wear sneakers, there's a little bit of a curvature to your foot, and it's just not as good for you, and it's not as comfortable because your feet aren't really flat against the floor. Personally, I love the Converse. I also see a lot of people do it heavy squats, heavy deadlifts, doing it barefoot. But basically, you want your feet to be flat on the floor. It's going to give you a stable base. It's actually going to allow you to be able to push a little bit more weight because your feet are all completely in contact with the floor. And yeah, it was ridiculous how much of a change it felt when I switched over from sneakers to a flat bottom shoe. So I 100% recommend trying that. So here's an example of some flat bottom shoes that I wear when I lift. As you can see, there's really nothing to the sole at all compared to these sneakers right here. Where these obviously have like a lot of padding. It's not completely flat like these ones are. So yeah, these are what I started lifting in, and then once I switched over to the Converse, it helped me out a lot. So coming in at number 7, we have keeping an inline spine. So this is a huge one. I'll actually give you guys a little story real quick. So when I first started working out, it was at my high school because I was playing football in high school. And we had, squat racks all over the gym. And I always remember there was this one squat rack, and you would be looking at the wall right in front of you, and about a couple feet up, somebody wrote a little X, said, "Look here." And that was what they were teaching us. Every single time you squatted, they were saying, "Oh, you gotta look up. Because, when you're going down, blah, 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 when you look up, that's better for you than if you're looking down, whatever." So that was what I was accustomed to. It was always looking up. And to be honest, it never felt 100% comfortable, but I just always figured that was the right thing to do. Once I heard about the whole principle of keeping an inline spine, that I started doing that, and that changed my squat a lot, made it feel a lot more comfortable. So basically, keeping inline spine, that means you want your spine to be in a straight line the whole way down. So if my neck is tilted back like this, there's going to be a curve in my spine because I'm looking up. So by looking straight, keeping that natural, just straight line in my spine, it helped me to basically have literally more strength, and it helped me to prevent injury, and it just felt a lot more comfortable because it was more natural in general. Just doing anything, like trying to lift any weight while your head is just up like this, it just doesn't feel natural. So putting my head, keeping that neutral spine, just looking straight forward, letting my neck relax, that was just a lot better. Helped me feel more comfortable, helped me actually move a little bit more weight because my whole body was in line. So wherever you feel comfortable, wherever you're looking right now during your squat, if you're looking down, you're looking up, I recommend just resting your neck, just look straight forwards and give that a shot. Your spine's gonna be in line and it's probably gonna feel better. So right here you can see my head is pointed up, and you can literally see the curve and where my spine would be. So now putting my head forwards, shaking out a little bit, it just looks more comfortable, more natural, and you can see my spine. My neck is all aligned. So for my 8th and final tip, this one is crucial. Work out your legs twice a week, at the very least. Like I said earlier, squatting, legs, all that stuff was never really my thing for the longest time. I kind of forced myself to start liking it. I started working out my legs twice a week, and good things started to happen. So also to add on to that, what I would do is on one leg day I would focus on squats as my main compound lift. The other day I would focus on doing my sumo deadlifts. But basically, like I said earlier, with keeping your muscles guessing and not doing the same thing over and over again, by having a day where you focus on squats versus a day where you're focusing on doing sumo deadlifts or something like that, just keeps your muscles guessing. And it's all just different ways to work your legs, and it's all gonna build that squat so much. My squat went up ridiculously from doing sumo deadlifts and all that. So definitely work out your legs twice a week. Switch it up, focus one day, one day back squat, one day front squat, one day sumo deadlifts, whatnot. That is crucial when it comes to building your legs. If you're not working them out enough, you can't expect for them to grow fast. Like, it just doesn't make sense. All right, guys, so I know that was a pretty long and really lecture heavy video, so I apologize for that. I'll get more interesting videos coming out real soon, but I just really wanted to share with you guys all those tips because I had a lot of people ask me for a while on how to increase their squat, how I increased my squat so much. So I just really was out of the YouTube game for a while. I got to get more consistent with it again, but finally got around to doing it. So for those that stick around and watch the whole video, I hope this really helps out your squat. If you don't have me on Instagram, my username I'm going to put at the bottom of the screen right about now. Add me on that. Feel free to shoot me a DM, shoot me an email, something. I'll be more than happy to answer questions. So yeah, I hope all these tips find you well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned because we got a pretty good video coming next week. I'll release a little bit more information on my Instagram coming soon. Take care.